All right, in today's video, it's going to be about never buy these types of homes. I've got a list here that I'm going to go over. That's going to help you possibly so you don't make a bad decision. I don't know if you remember that home by Tom Hanks, The Money Pit. I don't want you guys to fall into that. So I made up a list here. The reason why I'm giving my opinion on this is because I'm a realtor in the Metropolitan Indianapolis area, and also I'm a realtor down in the Florida area. And this is a list of items that I've talked about to people, clients, whenever we're walking through a property. I'll point these things out to them, and then this information helps them determine whether this property is right for them or not. So I'm also a 14-year real estate investor. I have bought and held, and I have also flipped properties. I've flipped a 100-year-old home, took it all the way down to the bones. We did foundation work, pier work, all that, and we've completely rebuilt it, the whole thing, and sold it. And the last time it was sold back in 2017, I looked on the MLS here in Indiana, and it still had the same finishes in there. So whatever we did back in 2004-5, we nailed it. Okay. So I've also done paint and flip properties. And so anyhow, that's it. So we're going to get off and get started here as far as we'll be talking about roof, plumbing, electrical, types of homes, funky homes, FEMA, uh, flood zones, HOA, and what kind of seller you really should not buy from. Then I'm going to have a bonus on what items to add value to quickly on a home that will get you some value of the home and increase the value of the property. So let's go ahead and get started. All right, so let's talk about plumbing. Things about plumbing, especially older homes, you don't want the cast iron plumbing, especially the sewers. You know, there could be a possible collapse. If there's a lot of trees out there, the tree roots get into the sewer. It could be very expensive to replace. Lead pipes, galvanized pipes. Another thing, it's aside from plumbing, is the Chinese drywall from 2001 to 2009. It was pretty prevalent, but mostly in the 2004 to 2007 timeframe. There was a shortage of drywall, and all had to do because of Hurricane Katrina. So it's something you want to think about. Now, let's talk about electrical. Knob and tube. Stay away from those insulated type properties that have that up there. Stay away from it. It's just going to be a big headache, and it's going to cost you 10 to 20,000 to rewire that whole property. Just stay away from it. Aluminum wiring. If you also find a property that has a 60 amp service, I would stay away from it completely. With today, you got a lot of computers and electronics and things like that in a home. You want minimum 100, preferred 200 amp service into that home. 200 amp, you're going to be able to run so many things at once and not worry about having the property kind of brown out, you know, fluctuations in the home. When you turn a light on, you know, the rest of the lights will go dim. Stay away from properties with the electrical outlets that have no grounds. It's very important that you have a ground in there, especially to help with properties that, well, appliances and computers and things like that need a ground in there. Okay. Now, homes, type of homes. 100-year-old homes, stay away from them. They're going to have so many issues. You don't want to mess with them. Now, if somebody went in there and it was a professional rehabber, not a rehabber, but somebody who went in and actually a builder, and they tore it apart, put it back together correctly, then you might want to take a look at that home. Layouts that are wonky. If you're walking through a bedroom to get outdoors, like here's an example. I looked at a property that was over in Speedway. Good looking property, recently rehabbed, updated. But when you walked in, you had the kid or the living room and then the kitchen, and you went down a hallway and there was the bedrooms and baths. And I was like, well, how do you get out to the backyard? You had to come back through, go out the side, through the side door that's into the garage, through the exit, the rear door out to get to the back of the property. So if you had an animal, you had to let them out through the garage. There was no slider. There was no rear doors going out to the rear, the backyard of the property. So stay away from that. It's kind of wonky. it doesn't really work in today's lifestyle. Um, Homes don't buy layouts that are wonky. Don't buy homes that, maybe 5, 6, 7 bedrooms. You really don't need that. What you need to have is minimum 3 bedrooms, 2 baths. Don't get a 3-1, because if anybody that has a 3 bedroom usually has kids, and you know how it is with standing in line. You're taking a number to try to get to the bathroom, and that's what happened when I was young. I remember that there was usually 3, 4, 5 of us, could be 5 of us inside of one bathroom. One person taking a shower, could be somebody on the toilet, could be somebody brushing their teeth. In today's world, uh, minimum 2, so don't do a 1. So a 3-2, 3, 2.5, 4-2, 4-3, great properties. Don't get something wonky, something funky. Don't buy a ugly house. Um, you don't want that. You might think, oh, yeah, I can fix it and make it better. No, if it's ugly to you, it's going to be ugly to the next buyer. If it's cute, yeah, get that. But if it's ugly and you're like, well, it's just the only home around, and it's an area I wanted, don't buy it. Just pass on it. Wait till something else comes up. Another type of home you don't want to buy is a rehab property that is the seller is an LLC. Usually what happens is these are rehabbers that go in really super quick, and they're just flipping the property. They're putting paint on a pig, and they're doing, I can always tell when walking in these properties here if it's a rehabber or not without even looking who the seller is, especially when they are all gray. It just seems like everything is gray, grays out. I definitely suggest, if you're going to fix a property up, update it, find some timeless classic colors. Get with somebody that knows an interior designer. Don't go with any funky colors that you like, because it's going to be very difficult to sell, because the next buyer is not going to like it. So stay away from LLCs as far as the seller goes. All right, now let's look at, talked about electrical homes. Now let's do the roofing. Don't do any flat roofs. No flat roofs, because eventually that roof is going to sag in places, and it's going to puddle water, and water finds the path of least resistance, and eventually it's going to find a seam, a pinhole or something, and you're going to start having some leaks. Don't do flat roofs. Make sure there's some kind of pitch to it. That's something important. And if there is a home that needs a roof, you might not want to do that, because that's going to be $10,000 to $15,000 down the road to repair that. And you might be thinking, you know what, no big deal. I'm going to get a deal on this property, and on down the road, I will fix it. But when that time comes, that 10 or 15,000, maybe 20,000, depending on how big the roof is and how many squares it takes, that price of that roof could be very, very expensive. Another home to stay away from is a home that has been on fire. Now, if a home has been on fire and completely tore down and rebuilt from the ground up, that's fine. But if you have sections of home, let's say the kitchen caught on fire, it got up into the attic, and possibly down the road, your insurance company could pick up on that and say, you know what, we're not going to cover it because that home probably was not repaired correctly. Now, all these items right here, I always suggest my clients to make sure that you get a home inspection. Now, you get that home inspection, and if that inspector comes back and finds out there's structure issues, run for that from that property. You might not want to purchase that property because of that reason of structural issues, especially if it's on a slab. There's some areas of the country, especially sandy areas, they're more prone to sink. You want to be very cognizant of that. There could be outside of the property, you could see in the block, you've got cracks. You go inside of it, you look in corners, you can see cracks. Those are indications you have some kind of structure issue, foundation issue. I would completely stay away from that. Now, homes with windows that are no good, that you need to replace, especially along the coastline where it requires hurricane type windows, stay away from that, because it'd be very, very expensive to replace those windows. Homes with septics, I would personally stay away from them. They could be a nightmare. You don't know if those septics have been cleaned out, the finger systems have been cleaned out correctly. You don't know how it's been maintained. I would personally stay away from them. If there's any oil tanks that are buried on that property and it shows up in the seller's disclosure, run from that. Stay away from it, because the EPA could come back and say, hey, you need to dig that tank out, and you might have a huge bill that you're responsible for, and you don't want to have to do that. So stay away from that as well. We talked about funky homes, LLCs. Okay, flood zones. This country right now, we're experiencing a lot of rain. We're getting a lot of flooding in different areas. Make sure the property is not in a flood zone, because you're going to be paying extra per month in insurance because that property sits in a flood zone. Now, even if it sits next to a creek, I just looked mine up on the FEMA website, and just less than a half a mile away is a creek, which shows could be flooding through there. It's just a small creek, okay? But it says it could be flooding. But my property is not in a flood zone, but be very aware of that. You don't want to be in a 50 or 100. Make sure it's a 500 year. Another thing too to stay away from, and these could be good or bad, it's all depends on you, are HOAs. Now, I'm a fan of HOAs because if it's a good property management company that is over the HOA, then they're going to come through and make sure that things are enforced. Like trash cans are put up in the garage, not sitting on the side of the home, and making sure that properties are not getting painted any funky neon wild colors. Cars are not being worked on outside of the property and left. And, they're just broken down cars being worked on everywhere in the street and whatever. So, HOA is a good one, can take care of that. But then there are some that you're paying into that don't care about that stuff. And you're like, why am I spending two, three, $400, $500? It could be a month, it could be annually. And you're questioning, why am I spending this money given to the HOA when they're not enforcing anything? One of the biggest things that I have found with HOAs that are not enforcing is usually there's a 10% rule for rentals. They are not enforcing. They're allowing, if a property gets sold, to be sold to a corporation, and those homes are turned into rentals. And when that happens, most of the time, there's good people out there that are renting properties, but for the most part, they don't take care of their properties. They don't cut the grass, they don't paint, they don't do nothing about the properties. They don't care about the neighbors. They make a lot of noise. And it's just something that you need to be aware of with the HOA, because like I said, there's bad ones out there. They'll collect the money and they will not enforce anything that are on the bylaws, the CCRs and that kind of thing. So if you're getting ready to purchase a property, make sure you look at the CCRs for the property and make sure that the covenants and the property management is doing what they're supposed to. You might want to get minutes of their meetings to find out what they've been talking about. Are they getting ready to raise rates? Is there assessments like with condos? There's a lot of assessments going on that, whenever you pay into a condo, that monthly goes to the exterior of the building. Do they have enough reserves to be able to take care of the property when a new roof needs put in, or if there's any kind of major repair that needs to be taken care of? Do they have the funds to be able to take care of that? So now those are the type properties to stay away from. Now here's a couple quick, no, we're going to give you one quick value that you could get instant value, increase the value of the property. Let's say you've got a home with a carport, it's not enclosed. Go out there, have somebody enclose it, a professional, enclose it up, make it an extra bedroom, make sure it has proper electric, heating and air conditioning, make sure it's taken care of, so that way you got a closet in there and whatever qualifies for a bedroom, and you can add extra value right there. Now, if you wanted to put a bathroom in there as well, that will really increase the value. You could expect 10, 20, 30, $40,000 in added value with that. Now, one thing you don't want to do, thinking that it's going to add value and demand especially anywhere that is not in the South, would be to add a pool to the property. I don't care if you just put a pool in the property that cost $100,000, you're only get return $20,000 to $25,000 of that value added back into your property, your home. The increased value, whenever you go to list it, you're not going to get that $100,000 back. You're going to get about 20, 25%. So another thing that you don't want to do in a property, if you're going to resell it, is to customize a kitchen that is so outlandish. It might be great for you, but down the road, the next buyer might be like, you know what, I'm going to have to go in there, I'm going to tear that whole thing out, and I'm going to remodel that whole thing because I do not like it. I do not like French or Spanish or whatever type of kitchen you put in. You know, you put in 3 microwaves and 2 refrigerators and all this stuff. And they're like, why? That was such a waste. I don't want to. Maybe I could live with it, but eventually I'm going to have to tear it out. Or don't buy a home that has a water tank that's built into a wall. Say a 500 or 1,000 gallon water tank. Don't be buying a home like that thinking, oh, that's a cool feature. And eventually you're going to be looking at going, you know what, I got to take care of this thing. The fish keep dying. I got to take care of the pH, the water, all this stuff. What a waste. I got to clean it. This is no fun. So next thing you know, you got to tear it out. You got to rebuild it. That area, that could cost you $10,000, $15,000 down the road. Don't buy a home that has some really cool man cave that was built just for that previous seller. He thought it would be so cool to make it an NFL or all the professional teams of the area, just have everything painted on the walls and all this stuff. And you're like, you know, it's cool, but for me, no. So stay away from that. Hopefully there's a list of items that you found really useful. Did I talk about FEMA? Yes, I did. HOA, sellers, roofing, all that stuff. So hopefully these tips helped you out. If you need any help getting your property ready, if you're in the metropolitan Indianapolis area, feel free to look me up. You're going to see all my contact information down in the description. Feel free to reach out to me. I have people that are reaching out to me that are moving this way all the time, and you know, whether it's 9 days or 90 days and you're looking to make that move into the metropolitan Indianapolis area, feel free to reach out to me. I'd love to be your representative to help you buy that home, and that way you can find an area that suits your needs. Also down in the description, you're going to find some links that's going to help you find out what school zones are in the area, crime, talking about the city, things like that. Use those as far as useful resources. Me being a realtor, I cannot share my opinion about a certain area, whether I like it or not. All I can personally tell you is, would I live there? And then I can go one step further. It's like, you know what? I would live there if I was single. But being married, then I have to think about kids, and my wife, she'd be like, you know, I would not live there. So I can't steer you away or to an area. I can't steer you away or from a home either. But hopefully this information will help you make a decision, a good decision based on what the criteria is for you when purchasing a property. So maybe some of these issues that I brought up, you're like, you know what? I can take care of that. No big deal. I had the funds down the road to make those repairs. No big deal. I just would like to get a home in the metropolitan Indianapolis area because I'm moving from California, Washington, New York. Maybe I'm moving back to Indiana from the South. Got too hot being down in Florida, Texas, Atlanta, all those places like that. I just got tired of it. Too many people. I want to move back so that way I have some more breathing room. So hopefully this information helped you out, and feel free to reach out to me. Be glad to help you with any questions. You can reach out to me via email, phone call, or text me, whatever works best for you. All right, guys, let me know if you have any questions. Feel free to leave a comment down below, and I'll be answering those questions. If you have anything like that, feel free to leave me some feedback about this video as well. Give me a thumbs up. All right, guys, have a great day.